Thank you to you both. All right, Mr. Isaacman, let's start. If you're confirmed, you will oversee NASA's various field centers, mission directorates, and affiliated activities. This includes Artemis and the Moon to Mars program, which aims to keep us one step ahead of nations like China in the fight for supremacy in space. The threat from China is very real. Just last week, General Saltzman, Chief of Space Operations for the Space Force, testified before the U.S.-China Economic and Security Review Commission that Beijing has been explicit, as recently as October of last year, in stating that China intends to surpass the United States and become the world's preeminent space power. As General Saltzman put it, quote, China's advancement in space technology, their stated desire to dominate, and Beijing's disregard for international norms for the responsible use of space make them an incredible danger to U.S. prosperity and security. China has said that they will put a man on the moon by 2030, and that they will build a permanent lunar base there along with Russia by 2035. Based on how quickly they have already progressed, I think it is quite possible that China reaches those milestones sooner than those dates, and indeed that China reaches the moon before the end of President Trump's current term. Mr. Isaacman, if China beats us to the moon, what consequences might America face?
Mr. Chairman, I really appreciate that question, and I couldn't agree more with all of your commentary, sir, including in your opening remarks. We certainly cannot lose. If we do not lead the way and we're following, we may be following forever, and the consequence of which could be extraordinary. I mean, even if you're talking about things that have maybe even a low probability, let's say, for example, on the lunar surface, helium-3 becomes a new source of fusion power, it could shift the balance of power here on Earth. I don't think we can afford to find that out the hard way. As you said, sir, and I've agreed for a very long time, space is the ultimate high ground. We cannot afford to cede that ground.
So my team did a visual representation of what the stakes are. And it's a simple question: what does the future look like in 2030? Now, I will note that my team used ChatGPT to make this poster. And my immediate comment on seeing it is the American flag is too damn small. And I was told it was difficult to get a bigger American flag on AI. That may be underscoring the need to win the race for AI as well. But it does give a sense of exactly what the choices we're facing. Now, when we met in my office, you said beating China back to the moon was, quote, critical for our national interests. You also said that if President Trump turns on the television and sees Chinese astronauts on the surface of the moon before Americans, you said you would be fired that day. In your written testimony, however, you said, quote, we will prioritize sending American astronauts to Mars. There seems to be a bit of tension between the commitment you made in my office and your testimony. What is your view? Will you maintain course with the Artemis program so that we can return American astronauts to the moon before President Trump leaves office?
Mr. Chairman, I really appreciate the statement. First, I couldn't agree more with the president and his inspiring and ambitious goal to send American astronauts to plant the stars and stripes on Mars. He didn't say we shouldn't go to the moon. I suspect the president, as I feel, and probably a lot of Americans, is what's taking us so long to get back to the moon, and why does it cost so much money? I absolutely want to see us return to the moon. As I mentioned in my prepared remarks, determine the economic, scientific, and national security value while we are also proceeding towards Mars. I don't think we have to make any tough trades here, Senator. I think if we can concentrate our resources at the world's greatest space agency, we don't have to make a binary decision of moon versus Mars, or moon has to come first versus Mars. I think we could be paralleling these efforts and doing the near impossible, which is exactly why the American taxpayers funded NASA in the first place.
Well, I will say on the question of whether NASA has to implement Moon then Mars, United States law is explicit and unequivocal on that. 51 U.S.C. Section 20302, which Senator Cantwell and I wrote, says, vision for space exploration. The administrator shall establish a program to develop a sustained human presence in cislunar space or on the moon as a stepping stone to future exploration of Mars and other destinations. The notion of the moon as a stepping stone is explicitly in U.S. law. Do you acknowledge that?
Yes, I do, Senator.
And let me ask you, given the current NASA budget, if we assume for a moment we're not going to see a dramatic shift and NASA's budget double tomorrow, do you believe it is possible to stand up a full mission to the moon and a full mission to the Mars simultaneously? Senator,
as I mentioned in my prepared remarks, I think we can absolutely do that. We can figure out the space economy in low Earth orbit. We can run more scientific missions. This is the agency that went from sending Alan Shepard on a suborbital mission, and 8 years later, we saw Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin on the surface of the moon. Do I think that we can get back to the moon, chart a course for Mars, and do all the other things? Absolutely, Senator.
So do we have your commitment that you will not allow the scenario on the right on this poster to happen, that China will not beat us to the moon, that one of these heroes sitting in this room will set his or her, and as a father of 2 daughters, I'm particularly excited that Artemis is committed. It will be a her. The first woman will step foot on the moon, and she will be an American astronaut. Do we have your commitment that we will win the race to the moon and China will not beat us?
Senator, I only see the left-hand portion of that poster.
And next time we'll make the American flag bigger. Senator Cantwell.
Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent that the poster be placed in the record.
An excellent idea, and a chairman who was crossing his T's and dotting his I's would have done so already without objection. Senator Cantwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And continuing on this same point, listen, I have no doubt of your capabilities at the technical side of this and the expertise, both on the aviation and the space side. It's a question, I think, of a long-term challenge of different administrations to deliver